And I'm going to need you please to monitor the chat for me. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate it. We've got a very full agenda, and we're going to make sure we have time to answer any of your questions that you may have that we hopefully have answers for. I'm going to preface this by saying that we're in a challenging time right now in that things in the back end up at the state are some of the things in the back end of the state are not working the way they're supposed to be. And believe me, I'm sure that several of you can unmute and tell stories about that, but we're going to avoid that for today. We're just going to acknowledge the fact that that is the case and that we are being kept up to date as much as possible about where things are. So, to the best of our ability, we will answer your questions with regard to that, but there may be some that we still don't have an answer to, which, if I were you, would be frustrated, but it is the way it is. So we're going to have to move on from here and see what questions you have. The normal accessibility statements are here from CDEC, so you've seen those before. I also want to let you know that the slides with operating links are on the UPK page that we just showed you. They're already up. So anything that you click on here is not going to open, but the links on the UPK page at Joint Initiatives will open for you as we talk about this. So this is our agenda. You can all read. We're just going to go ahead and dive in. The first is calendar submissions for 25-26. So you are required to submit your calendar for 25-26. If you have not already done so, you must get that done as soon as possible. There is a live link on the UPK page as to where you submit your calendar. I am going to strongly suggest to you that you not choose a state provided template because that going into the spreadsheet that the state is using for their purposes is not working properly. So instead, I would suggest that when you're submitting your calendar, that you choose to design your own calendar and then answer all of the questions about start date, end date, closures, etc. So because that will feed into the spreadsheet appropriately and will give everybody the information that they need to be able to process payments, make sure that the CCAP stacking is being done the way it needs to be done, and ensure that you are providing the required minimum number of UPK hours over the time period. Be sure to read the instructions prior to submitting so that you know whether you have to submit more than one calendar for your program. And calendar FAQs can be found on our UPK page. You can open those up and read those before you submit so that you do it right the first time, which is always good. Make sure that your start date is correct because the start date is really, really, really important. Okay. If you did not do your calendar or you did not complete a provider agreement until August, when you submit your calendar, you need to go in and put a September start date in there so that you get 10 payments. So we're tricking the system around that. And when I send a follow up to all providers after this, I will highlight that in there. The state is taking the last calendar submitted by you. So if you have to correct your calendar in order to be able to get paid, you're going to have to submit it again. So we are here to answer whatever questions you need. Carlina has been assigned to follow up with providers who have not submitted their calendars yet. So if you hear from Carlina, it's because you have not shown up on the state's website or the state spreadsheet that says that you've submitted it. You must get that done because there is going to be a point once again where if there's not a start date and a submitted calendar, you're not going to get paid. And we already know how much fun that is. So please make sure you get your calendar submitted if you have not already. Okay, let's move on to the state's information about supplemental hours. Um, so the most recent award date in the supplemental hours report is 8/21/25. So when you are in downloading your supplemental hours report, it is as of 8/21/25. The next one we do not expect to be uploaded until after the September payment on October 15th. Is this ideal? Absolutely not. But it is what it is again. So be aware of the fact that the supplemental hours report that you're downloading and that we have access to also is only up to date as of 8/21/25. There is 4 slides in here about how you download your supplemental hours report. There's really no point in me reading this to you. I would prefer instead that you take a look at it as you are attempting to download your report and see if you can, if you have any issues, of course, then we can assist you. But yeah, it's not a good use of time for me to read you these slides. Um, okay. The next slide is more about that. So again, I've already said the supplemental hours information is not a real-time document. Uploads are done approximately every 2 weeks. So there's a lot of information in the handbook around eligibility. We continue to get questions from providers about whether or not somebody is eligible for 30 hours and what makes them eligible for 30 hours. This is clearly defined in the provider handbook. So, again, you can go there and you can look at that. We're going to take a minute to go through this again in hopes that we can clarify some of this. Any family who says that they are at 100% of poverty or below, and the family has uploaded proof of income, and it has been reviewed by the state and approved, is going to be eligible for 30 hours. So when a family fills out their application, they are asked to choose one of 3 income frameworks, if you will, or groupings. The first is that their income is between 0 and 100% of poverty, which is dependent upon the number of people in their family. The next grouping is between 100% of poverty and 270% of poverty. And the third one is above 270% of poverty. If they want to be considered for any kind of supplemental hours, they have to choose one of those 3. And so the first one, the 0 to whatever amount that is, that's 100% of poverty for the number of family members. They have to upload proof of income to even be considered, even though they choose that. The second possibility is that their income is between 100% and 270%. So that's the middle range. And the family has uploaded proof of income. And the family has an additional eligibility factor that they have chosen on their application, that they're experiencing homelessness, that the child is in foster care or state funded care, has an IEP, or the child's home language is a language other than English. And that language is the primary language spoken in the home. So this is not about an English family that is learning Spanish. This is about a family whose primary language and the language in their home is something other than English. So those are the only 2 ways that families can be eligible for 30 hours. And I want to remind you again that it has nothing to do with the program that they have chosen. The program that they have chosen is what they need, not what they're eligible for. So a family may need or want a half-day program and they're eligible for 15 hours. So that half-day program is free to them because all children are eligible for a minimum of 15 hours as long as they have the appropriate birth date. But you may have a family who's eligible for 15 hours, but they've chosen full day because they're working and that's what they need. So the fact that they have chosen your full day program does not mean that they are eligible for 30 hours. Okay. So be really, really, really careful about that when you're talking to families about what their cost, what their tuition is going to be. All right. So again, there's more information in here about how to read the spreadsheet that you can download. But again, it's only right now available as of 8/21. It is taking between 4 to 6 weeks to review supplemental hours requests, whether it's a new application or a redetermination. This is all being done by hand, and the spreadsheet is being done by hand. So we have found a couple of mistakes in the spreadsheet as a result of that, which is, again, it's quite frustrating. If you have any questions as you're looking at the child's application, whether the authorization is correct, you're always free to reach out to us and we will assist you in any way we can. All right, guess what time it is? We are about to open up the 2627 provider setup form, and it's supposed to be live tomorrow. So, at that time, you will also be getting access to a timeline with all necessary guides and documents through email. And it should be available tomorrow at the time that the provider setup form is live. There is a draft that is here that, again, the link is live on the slides in the JI website. Take a look at that draft and make sure that you understand everything that's in there and what it is you're supposed to be doing when you're signing up for 2627. We want you to start thinking about the programs and seats that you will want for 2627. And you will have to have you should have a 2627 UPK calendar ready as soon as possible to submit as well. The state this time around is trying to get as much of the required stuff submitted at the time that the provider setup form is done as is possible. They are aware we have seen some things that have alluded to the fact that some of you are not going to be able to do a calendar for 2627 this early. You are going to be given the opportunity to submit that calendar later. But you really need to make sure that you know what your start date is going to be and commit to that start date as much as possible. Can it be changed later? Yes, if it has to be. But if you can figure out your start date, that's you're ahead of the game right then and there. And they likely will be asking relatively soon after the start setup form is done for you to submit some of your required documents. So begin to think about what that looks like and whether or not you can do that now or whether you're going to have to wait for some of that. We have not seen the final guidance on this. So I'm guessing from the conversations that we've had with the state that this is how this is going to play out. Don't freak out if there are some things that you can't submit. Don't worry about it. And you are going to have until, I believe, early December to get this setup form submitted because open enrollment for pre-registration and enrollment for anybody who even doesn't have pre-registration status will likely start the middle of December, just like it did this year. Okay, so we've got to get the program setup forms in and you set up so that families can choose you beginning in December. We are required to review all setup forms before they are approved, and we'll also confirm whether we're going to ask you also when we call you whether or not you have a CCAP contract. We're going to ask you whether or not you're able to submit your calendar, and if not, when you expect it's going to be submitted. The date that you submitted all required documents, and we're likely to confirm your start date in your setup form that is, you have every intention of that being the start of your UPK year for 26-27. We are not approving anything that we have not talked to you first. So Heather, Carolina, or I will be calling you once the setup form is submitted and we get notification, and we will confirm everything that is in there. Okay, a reminder from the state that if you have children in selected status, because we're in the direct enrollment phase, you need to either accept or decline for the appropriate reason in the Bridge Care Provider portal. And children who are in accepted status, they have to either be enrolled or we have to unenroll and withdraw them if you're not hearing from them or they're not attending your program in some way. This is something that you can call us for or send a ticket to upk at jointinitiatives.org and we will assist you with that. Don't let them sit in selected or accepted so that we are clear as to what the status is of that particular child. Okay, the topic of provider payments, everybody's favorite. So, as you all know, there is a 4-year-old preschool services funding and payments operation memo. Again, it is one of the ones that is up at the top of the UPK page for joint initiatives. That outlines all of the funding and payments information. So the state says providers must be licensed by CDEC, you all know that, and must have a signed universal preschool provider contract with CDEC. Program services are defined as there's the rules and regulations there. The minimum hours of service required in rule are defined by your submitted UPK calendar. Okay, that's one of the reasons that the calendar is important. And services therefore begin on the first day defined within your UPK calendar and end on the last day defined in your UPK calendar. You cannot be paid for services provided before the contract is executed. The state has backed off on this a little bit for August in that they have said that the people who got prorated payments, that they are saying that if you signed your provider agreement before your start date in August, then you will be made whole with any prorated agreements. It is not for those people, it is not dependent on the state having to send the fully executed contract back. So that's being addressed and taken care of as we speak. So you must enroll eligible children in your preschool program as participating providers, and you must complete an enrollment form and have children enrolled via the application portal. None of this should be new to you. I hope. But it is a reminder from the state that this is how this works. So again, payment issues processed by Metrics IQ on Monday, the 15th of September for August enrollments. Some providers did not receive payment. It's possible that they did not set up their payment information with Metrics properly or that they fall in one of the following scenarios. Payment set up with Metrics, as we just said, it's both ACH and W-9, not completed correctly or not submitted at all. And the way to fix that is to reach out to Metrics. Provider agreements not signed or not signed on time. And as I said here, CDEC is aware that some providers' August payment were prorated based on the date the agreement was signed and that they're working to resolve that. Missing insurance, this will be back paid after submission of the required documents. Dual enrollments were not corrected. We have corrected all dual enrollments that were sent to us, so that should not be an issue for you. Opt-out or unpublished, again, not an issue if you're sitting on this call. And applications not in enrolled status. So again, in order to be paid, the application has to be in enrolled status. If there was an issue there that you were actually providing services to the family, but they were not in enrolled status, there is a process to submit a reconciliation to ask for payment. There is a reconciliation memo that has been released on how to do that and when that will happen. And it is up on JI's UPK page if you can't find it anywhere else. So, payment issues, you're going to reach out to COUPK payments at metricsiq.com. Make sure you make note of the ticket that you are sent when you do that, because any follow up is going to be based on a ticket number. So don't lose that ticket number. Hang on to all communications so that if we get to the point where you simply are not getting a response, we have the possibility of being able to elevate it to through a different path to rattle the chains of Metrics IQ. But it has to be done with the ticket number. So if you do not have that, we can't help you. Reconciliation memo, as we just talked about. These are the reconciliation payment schedules for 25-26. Another reason that you may submit for reconciliation is if you served a child in the beginning of a month and they went to another provider in the end of the month, and you want to be paid for those first 2 weeks or those first 3 weeks or whatever, you're probably going to have to submit a reconciliation, and they're probably going to come back and ask you for your attendance records. So, because payment is pulled based on enrolled status at the end of the month or the beginning of the next month, depending upon which business day makes the most sense, you would not likely be paid for the first couple of weeks that you served that child and will probably have to submit a reconciliation. 3-year-old funding and payments. I know we have some school districts on here, and I have heard continually from school districts that they do not have enough information. We confirmed once again with our LCO lead that the state is working on additional guidance for 3-year-olds, and we do not have it yet. Wish I could help you with that, but I'm assuming as soon as they get it done, that it will come to you. There is a link here on the live slides where you can submit a question form if you need to do that. And I apologize for the fact that you don't have the information you need. Okay, the state wants to remind you that you can now see the withdrawal status. So, what this means is some of you have contacted me and said, "Hey, I had this family, but then all of a sudden they disappeared and I don't know why." Well, now you can see when they have been withdrawn. And so the withdrawal means that a family has selected you as a provider in their application, and then they've been placed in another program or changed their mind and moved their enrollment to another program. Their status will show up as withdrawn. And so you will then know that the family did that. And sometimes a withdrawal comes because there's a duplicate application, and we have had to withdraw one of the two applications, and the one that you're looking at actually is the one that we withdrew. But at least at that point, you'll know that the child has been withdrawn from any kind of status with you. And you are free to send an email to upk@jointinitiatives.org or call one of us and ask what happened with that particular provider, or child, what was the reason. And of course, if that family is standing in front of you and they're saying, "No, I really want to come to you," then I want you to reach out to us immediately so that we can fix it. We can do it in real time. But we need to know that that's what the situation is. Okay, couple of FAQs, and then we are going to go to any questions that you have. So I have a child who is enrolled in another center and wants to move to my center. How do we accomplish that? So first, the parent must contact the center where the child is currently attending and notify them that they are moving to another center and ask them to unenroll their child on the last day that the child will attend. That is the parent's responsibility. It is not yours and it is not ours. So have the parent do that. If for some reason they don't want to do that, I mean, I guess they can contact us and tell us why they don't want to do that, but it is their responsibility. Second, you or the family must reach out to our staff and ask that your program be added to the child's application and selected as status. Here's the reason that you have to reach out. The application is locked to the family. They cannot add the program. We can unlock it, but then part of the problem with that is it has to be locked again after the parent has done that. And it is almost impossible for us to keep up with who needs to be locked and who needs to be unlocked. And then families sometimes do things that really screw up payment if it's unlocked. So we're not unlocking applications for the parents to do that. Instead, we want you or the parent to contact us and ask us to add the program to the child's application. Remember that if you're doing that, particularly if you're doing it via email, you must tell us if you have more than one program, you must tell us which program you want that child to be in. So if you have a full day and you have a half day AM and a half day PM, when you're telling us to put them in selected status, then tell us which program they're going into. Once the child has been unenrolled from the previous center, and I do mean that, once the child has been unenrolled from the previous center, you are free to offer the family a match which they can then accept, and you can enroll using the child's first day in class with you as their start date. The end and start day may not overlap and may not be on the same day. This affects payment, i.e., you won't get paid. If the center where the child is enrolled does not unenroll the child in a timely manner, please reach out to a UPK staff person so that we can contact the center and find out why. So hopefully those steps are clear. But again, if you need more clarification, as soon as we're done with the FAQs, we can talk about that. My parents signed a contract that states that they must provide us with 2 weeks' notice to unenroll. If a family doesn't give us the contracted notice, may I still keep them enrolled in UPK with my center until that time period is up? The short answer is no. The contract is between you and the parent, and obviously we hope that they will honor the contract. If they do not, you still must unenroll the child with their last day being the last day that the child attended. And that should be even though you have 10 days to unenroll. When you do unenroll, it must be as of the last day that the child physically attended. Okay. We've had several situations where providers have let families sit because of a contract situation. And it is very, very clear that you are not permitted to do that. The state is not going to pay you for days that you did not serve the child. How can I submit feedback to the state about my Colorado Universal Preschool experience? I decided to put this in here so that you all know that you are free to submit something to the state about any concerns that you have about how things are being done. And that includes if you have any concerns about us as your LCO. We certainly would like to hear about those at least at the same time, if not before, but you are certainly free to submit that. So here is where you can submit any comments that you have. And then it's the typical provider resources, all of the places that you can get help. The provider handbook is supposed to be updated tomorrow. The family handbook is coming as a new update, but we don't know when. So there you go. All right. So let's open it up for any questions that you may have. If you can raise your hand, that would be great. But if not, if you can't find it, just unmute. Well, I'm thinking about it also. I want you to know that the provider office hours that the state was offering monthly are those open office hours. The last one was earlier this week. From here on in, they are doing topic specific office hours. So we will let you know when they are and what the specific topic is long before that, or at least as soon as we get the information so that you can sign into that if that is a topic that is of interest to you. But if you have any of the provider office hours on your calendar, please go ahead and take them off as they're not using those anymore. Any other questions? Well, you haven't asked any questions. Any questions? Okay, then we're going to give you a half an hour back. If there's anything you need to reach out to us about, please do that. We are happy to do the best we can to assist you. Heather, you can stop recording.